Fortunately, there are still a handful of voices in sports that have not completely lost it, that actually see what's going on here and see it better than a lot of conservatives in politics. Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley was on CBS talking about sports. I don't really remember exactly what he was talking about. And because now, when all of our sports conversations somehow come back to politics, Charles Barkley said, this is a game. This is a political tactic to divide Americans.
Man, I think most white people and black people are great people. I really believe that in my heart. But I think our system is set up where our politicians, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, are designed to make us not like each other so they can keep their grasp of money and power. They divide and conquer. I truly believe in my heart most white people and black people are awesome people, but we're so stupid following our politicians, whether they're Republicans or Democrats. And their only job is, hey, let's make these people not like each other. We don't live in their neighborhoods. We all got money. Let's make the whites and blacks not like each other. Let's make rich people and poor people not like each other. Let's scramble the middle class. I truly believe that in my heart.
This is obviously true. This is a classic tactic, by the way, of corporations against unions. I think there were some leaked memos from Amazon about this, how the trick to preventing unionization is to get all the workers to hate each other, because if the workers have solidarity, they'll unionize and then you'll have to negotiate with them. So corporations have been employing this for a long time and continue to employ this today. Marx tried to do this on the basis of class. He believed that when the workers of the world united and got together, there would be a workers' revolution and it would overthrow this sort of bourgeois capitalist industrial system. That didn't happen. And so Marx in that way died a failure, but his ideological heirs, the Western Marxists, cultural Marxists, neo-Marxists, whatever term you want to use, they recognized the problem that Marx had. I talk about this at great length, by the way, in my book, Speechless: Controlling Words, Controlling Minds, because it ties directly into political correctness, wokeism, cancel culture, again, whatever term you want to use. What guys like Antonio Gramsci realized, this communist Italian politician and Marxist theorist, was that the conservatives had a cultural hegemony. So the workers just didn't feel that oppressed, right? They didn't know that they were oppressed. They were laboring under what he would call a false consciousness. So what you had to do was indoctrinate them, obviously, take over the cultural institutions, but also, gin up certain other antagonisms. This was later brought to fruition under the Frankfurt School, the creation of critical theory. We now see a derivation of that, critical race theory, taking over classrooms and corporate America. We saw in the 1960s and 70s a lot of left-wing foundations recognizing that if you could gin up racial identity, create whole new identity groups, Hispanics, for instance, is a relatively recent identity group. Until very recently, you had people from Central and South America. They would say, I'm Mexican, I'm whatever, I'm Guatemalan, I'm Brazilian. Now there's this idea that you're Hispanic or Asian. That's a new identity group. They're trying to create a new one in the Middle East called MENA, Middle East, North Africa. That one hasn't really caught on yet. It's like Fetch and Mean Girls. The people just haven't made that one happen. But there was an explicit plan to divide Americans on the basis of race, because there isn't really a class system in America. So race is the fault line. And if you can do that, then the people who are attaining power can really manipulate people and really maintain a hold on their power. That's what Charles Barkley is seeing. He's absolutely right. And you're seeing this, by the way, ties in with what we were talking about earlier in the show about the fear of death cult. The left has taken this to its perfect conclusion in the coronavirus revolution of the last year and a half, whereby we're not even just divided on race or sex or class or anything like that. We are now perfectly divided from everybody. It's not just that white people view black people as a threat to them or black people view white people as a threat to them. We now have been instructed to view every single person that we come into contact with, not as a dignified human being possessing an immortal soul whom we should love as we love ourselves, but as bags of germs that are out there waiting to kill us. And if they so much as breathe from behind that filthy cloth covering that a bunch of sheep have been persuaded to wear by Dr. Fauci, if they so much as breathe, that is as though they were taking out a gun and shooting us. That's how dangerous they are because of coronavirus. It is a perfectly divisive strategy. And some people still go along with it. Very bad idea. We need to encourage, the thing I always liked about sports is that people seem kind of grounded. They seem kind of normal. It wasn't highly ideological. We need to encourage the remaining common sense voices there to speak up. Draymond Green is a basketball player, apparently. I don't know who he is. I don't watch basketball. But Draymond Green made this great point the other day. He was talking about Megan Rapinoe, that crazy-haired lady from the soccer team who always whines that she doesn't make enough money. She's a millionaire. She's rich. She's famous. But I don't make enough money for playing a sport that not a lot of people watch. And Draymond Green said, lady, you got to quit your whining. It's very unbecoming.
I'm really tired of seeing them complain about the lack of pay because they're doing themselves a disservice by just complaining, and
right. They're not just complaining.
Huh?
They're not just complaining, really.
But they are, because they're not laying out steps that they can take to change that. And so it's coming off as a complaint because the people that can change it, they're just going to continue to say, well, the revenue isn't there. The revenue isn't there. So if you don't bring in the revenue, we can't up your pay. They're going to keep using that. But the reality is, as true as that is, it's an excuse because everyone says, we support women. We support women empowerment. We support women in the workplace. We do this for women. We do X for women, blah, blah, blah. And everyone uses it to their advantage. Yet these women are not using these people that are saying those very things to their advantage. So then it just becomes a complaint that falls on deaf ears.
Of course. This is absolutely right. Because everyone is going to point out, it's just obvious, that women's sports don't bring in the revenue that men's sports bring in. Because men and women are different, and men are just not as physically strong and fast and buff as dudes. And that's just a fact of life. So when you want to watch people racing, for instance, you want to watch the fastest people racing, well, that's men. When you want to watch people fighting, you want to watch the strongest people fighting, that's men. When you want to watch people playing team sports, goes on and on. So just quit whining, lady. It's very unbecoming. Broadly speaking, pride is ugly. Vanity is ugly. Humility is beautiful. We once knew this, but we don't know this now. Now we've convinced ourselves as a culture that pursuing our own will outside and in contravention of the moral order is good somehow. Because we're breaking the oppression of we're breaking the oppression of the moral order and liberating ourselves from reality. Liberating yourself not just from the unjust bonds that have been put on you, but even from reality itself. You see the total expression of this in transgenderism, which is I will liberate myself from nature entirely, from my own most basic nature. Not a recipe for success. Charles Barkley, though, he makes this point. I mean, we're all seeing this, that this is big business. This is big business here. The grievance industry, as Draymond Green might call it, is big business. If you enjoyed that break from disinformation, historical revision, and screaming about the end of the world, be sure to hit the subscribe button so that you never miss another video.